The word Japa has become an anthem for many Nigerians as they look to leave the country in search of greener pastures. According to a research study, 7 out of every 10 Nigerians will leave the country if given the opportunity to do so. One of the economic effects of migration is that it leads to brain drain, a situation where a country witnesses a high number of its best hands of professionals leaving the country. The crop of individuals leaving the country are youth who have been trained and graduated from university, from the medical space, engineering, and others. Although many say insecurity and corruption are some of the reasons to leave, the economic setback remains a big consequence for this migration. Well, joining us in the studio is a strategy consultant and public affairs analyst, Dipo Oyewole. Dipo, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We also have via Zoom from the UK, founder, CEO, People Ump, UK, Olanrewaju Idowu. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
I say good morning.
All right. Now, first of all, tell us why you left the shores of the country, because this matter of Japa, everybody have their varying reasons why they want to leave the country. You are outside the country. What spurred you leaving the country in the first place?
Thank you very much for having me. So for me, when people use the word Japa, Japa to different people actually mean different things. So for someone like me, it's not out of desperation. Yeah, so I worked Procter & Gamble for over 10 years and led different roles. So I've worked in Switzerland before, so I've always been like a global citizen. So my major driver for leaving the shores of the country is because I've done a lot of work, and it's just, you get to that point in your career where you need to have that global outlook. By the way, to give you context to that, I was an HR VP, in a big startup in Nigeria, at the time in which I left the country. In fact, by the time I left the country, I was still working with the company remotely for over 2 years before I left the company for another company in the UK and kept on driving my startup in the UK.
Interesting. But a lot of people adduce the fact that Nigerians are leaving the country, Africans generally, for greener pastures. It shows that you are a global citizen. How do you see others who are going to other countries, for a better, the greener side of the world?
Yes. It's good to also lay some premise very, very clear. We know that majority of people that live today is out of desperation, because people definitely have lost hope in the country one way or the other. I've been victim also at different times. So I think those also will have propelled individuals to make that move and say, I need to leave Nigeria. So sometimes, or majority of that number is actually out of hopelessness in the direction of the country. And you see a lot of move on that. Particularly, for example, people at my level, majority of us could have actually stayed back in Nigeria. But sometimes when you assess the scenario and you don't see a lot of stability, you don't see that hope, at the end of the tunnel, they just have to make that decision to find a place where you can actually have that stability for yourself. So for the majority of them is actually out of that hopelessness, in that future of the country.
Right, let's take the conversation to the studio now. Dipo, stemming from what Olanrewaju has said, you are still in the country. It seems you still have hope for this country.
Yes, so the fact remains that not everybody can leave.
Okay.
So not everybody can leave, and like we've said, different people have different reasons for leaving, right. And it's really not a priority for everyone to leave. It's also not practical for everyone to leave, and people also need to understand that the fact that you either choose to leave or stay has to really feed into what you believe your future holds for you. If you would maximize whatever potentials you have within the shores of this country and then you go somewhere else, you may find yourself in trouble. For example, as much as we like to say that the country has a lot of challenges, a lot of people will also tell you that it gives room for a lot of opportunity. So some people choose to approach from a business perspective and say, what are the challenges that are available? What are the opportunities I can craft from it? Provide solutions, provide value to the market.
And that is what has been working for you?
So far, but it has been challenging, as a lot of people will tell you. But like we like to say, that migration is not a new phenomenon. It didn't start with Nigerians. It's basic human nature, and it's really the nature of, if not all living things, because even birds themselves have to travel to certain locations at a certain time of the year, either for winter or for summer, and they come back to their main base. So this is what happens a lot. But in the case where we have a lot of people living now in droves, like he rightly said, it stems from people having some sense of hopelessness in how the situation of the country has been, and where they don't see the situation of the country as situated now to be of any immediate or future benefits to their own potentials, to their own future, to their own families, to their own children. So that's why certain people are leaving at this time.
Is it a matter of people leaving and because they did not feel, they did not see that hope, that glimmer of hope to stay back in the country? Do you feel the government is really doing so much to put the right policies in place to ensure that Nigerians stay back, or are there no policies on the ground at all?
Okay, well, the government of the day right now, I believe somehow is still trying to get their footing. After a couple of months, we understand that they need to clear a lot of rot in the system. But I believe that they need to do a lot if they're doing whatever they're doing now, whatever ratio. They need to do a lot more to ensure that they adequately communicate to Nigerians, not just in words, but in actions, to let people know that, yes, these are the indicators for you to have actual hope in the system, that you can make it here, that your future is secure here, because a lot of people will leave for cases of just insecurity. I mean, we've had a lot of cases of where suddenly people come into the country for a brief period for a family event, and then they became victims of some type of insecurity, and they vowed not to come back to the country. Even some people have said that they shouldn't even be buried when they die here, when they die abroad. So, I mean, those cases are there, and we must see how we address the root causes of this mass migration. It's not enough to say that people are leaving and then there are a lot more people staying back, because we must also understand that we may not be able to adequately quantify what it's costing us, especially economically, but it is costing us a lot every week, every month, every year. So we must see how we stem the tide. We may not be able to totally eliminate it, because it isn't really possible to do that. I mean, we have foreigners in our country right now, in countries that we will term first world. So they come here for opportunity. So we would also go somewhere else for opportunity. There's no big deal in that. But we must also see how most of our productive population that have a lot to offer us as a nation don't find their way out of the shores of this country while we're trying to get things right.